everybody. It's primary day, June 26, 2018, and it's about 11:40. We're at the Montgomery County Board of Elections. We have a quorum of members here. We have a short agenda. I just want to make one agenda change. We're going to discuss the logistics and the procedure to count the votes for the Democratic Party Central Committee election. That's an issue that's come up recently, so we're going to discuss that. And I know I know Kevin suggested an executive session for today. Unless there's a real vocal opposition, I'd like to see if we can table those discussions until next meeting. I know there was some issues Kevin wanted.
I did, and I think it's going to be an extended conversation, so I don't think today is the appropriate time to do it.
Okay, so we'll just have our regular meeting today, and with that added thing, and then By the way, everybody's in tremendous sync. I can't tell you how I think how we are doing so well under very adverse circumstances. And Margaret, your reaction to all this has been terrific. You're right on top of everything.
Mr. Chairman, may I add to
Sure.
that? I've been overwhelmed last night and today and I don't know why it's hit me after all these years, although I've always been cognizant of it, of the enormous job this is. And the detail that has to be done. And Margaret, you and Margie and Lisa and Chris
and Allison,
and downstairs Kevin, and upstairs Kevin, all of you and do such an incredible job, and the detail. Every place I went, the other piece of it that struck me, every place I went, everybody knew what they were doing, which it shocked me, and at how well and how happy everybody was. Because I thanked everybody and said hi, we walked in or whatever, and everybody was in a good humor, and everybody was laughing and helping each other, and it was just a delight, and it's just stunning what the intricate details of getting this all together was, and I absolutely congratulate you thoroughly.
Yeah, I concur completely.
Thank you.
So
Staff.
we have a quorum. I don't know if I said that before.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to start with this issue? It's interesting, and then maybe Margaret will give us an overview of what's happening today.
If you want, I think our issue is going to be pretty short.
Okay,
the Central Committee you're talking about? Yeah. I think it's pretty short.
Yeah, I'm going to turn to David. David brought this to my attention.
Okay.
And,
it was brought to my attention. My understanding is that there was some question on the part of the State Board staff as to the counting of the Democratic Central Committee ballots. This year, for the first time, the Democratic Central Committee is divided into the races for male members and female members. Not for the first time, there is also a state law that limits the number of people from one legislative district who can be elected at large to the Central Committee. And then there's some question about how those two things go together. And for reasons that are not entirely clear, the suggestion was made to the chair of the Democratic Party, who is himself a candidate on the ballot, that perhaps he or his committee should be the ones to certify the results of the election. He understandably said, "What? An obvious conflict of interest, et cetera, since he is a candidate in the election." And I've had an opportunity to discuss it very briefly with Jim and in more detail with Marianne and Alan. And I think our view was that we should count them the same way we always have, and that there might be.
I just want to interrupt you. The thing that opened my eyes wide is David tells me that someone who gets the most votes may not win because they're living in a district that you can't have like more than one winner or something. In other words, the winner may not be the one with the most votes. It's a complicated process.
The one with the most votes almost certainly does win, but when you get into the third and fourth place finishers, you have some other possibilities. Basically, if one of the top four finishers is the third person in terms of order of number of votes from the same legislative district, that's where it's possible that the top vote getter does not win. But that was also true in the past. this apparently has been a feature of state law. Someone quoted a year to me today.
Is it a law or a party rule?
No, state law. The party rule is about the gender balance.
Equal division.
The state law is about the geographic limitation, and the courts have found very decisively that party rules take priority over state law for party offices. And that's been Supreme Court decisions, et cetera, which I won't bore you with and don't know by heart. But it's that intersection of the two. If we are to have an interesting result, which I always hope against the interesting result and for the clear result, just because of all the controversy that can come with that. But if we do have an interesting result, it would be if a number of people from the same legislative district were to be among the top finishers, and then you have the potential that one of the top finishers, but who might be the third from a particular legislative district, doesn't get chosen, while someone with fewer votes from a different legislative district does get chosen. But that's what the state law provides.
So,
Now, what I don't know is whether the state board staff consulted with anybody before going to the party, or whether they did that on their own. I don't know whether anyone on our staff was asked.
Yeah, my question is, did the state board not bring this to the Montgomery County board in terms of...
And I should add, it could also be that this particular staff member did it. We don't know whether they did it with approval. It did not come from the top of the organization.
Is that a statewide, the way it's being done statewide, or just Montgomery County for the Central Committee?
Neither. It is different counties are doing it in different ways. Some counties have state laws, some counties don't. Some counties are having separate elections by gender, some are not. The gender equity rule is a national Democratic Party rule, and I believe it has been since the early 1970s. But
I was there.
Yeah, okay. Then Mary Ann can vouch for the fact. I kind of remember the fact.
And they haven't updated that.
Well, they've enforced it in different ways, and up until this year, they've enforced it where every time they fill a vacancy, they count the number of men, they count the number of women, and then they add extra members to make it even. And as you can imagine, if you do that every time there's a vacancy, and as you may recall, they've had a number of vacancies as people move up into higher office and all that. And what ends up happening is that you end up adding a huge number of people, and you run out of room, in your meeting. So what they decided to do, with the approval of the state party, but also as a vote of the local party, was to have these separate elections. But there's still the state law that talks about the geography.
Margaret, you had stepped out of the room. I had asked a question regarding this issue that came forward apparently from somebody on the state board staff to the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee. Did the state contact us here at all about this issue and questioning how it was going to be counted?
No, if they did, it was part of the certification process, so it's kind of like certification is coming later, and it wasn't really number one on my hit parade.
Right.
So I would have to go through my emails from the state, and for some reason in the back of my mind, I think they did say something, but again, it was dealing with certification, and my focus has been provisional ballots and election day. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but once we know the rules and the procedures, we'll just rely on that.
Right. Well, and like Margaret says, we have some time before we have to declare winners, because
when people see the returns tonight, will they know?
No, because you'll have absentee. There's 15.
Oh no, I know, but
and Lord knows how many provisions.
Do our results that we typically publish this evening, do they indicate in any way a winner, or do they just say, here are the names, here's the numbers?
Right.
No.
They clearly say that they're unofficial.
Right, but they also, like there's no asterisk next to people
No.
or anything like that?
No.
Okay, good. So,
David, to answer your question, I think they did send something out, which I'll look and forward to the board.
uh-huh.
I quite frankly didn't understand it until you had just given me some additional background as
Okay.
to what the process was.
Okay.
And like Margaret, I really wasn't that focused on that particular issue.
Sure.
But I think there was something that was, I'll dig it up.
Okay.
I mean, the bottom line is they want us to certify the
Well, which they?
Who they?
state board
No.
wants the Democratic Central Committee, and
The state board, a state board staff member went to the Democratic Central Committee, suggested that they be the ones to do it. Democratic Central Committee basically said that makes no sense to them, or at least to the chair.
because they're candidates.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I don't see any reason why it should be any different than it's been in the past, because this geography issue, where not necessarily the top person in votes gets to be elected, that is not new. That's a feature. It's been a feature of state law. I'll find you the year as to when it was enacted, but it's not. I mean, that's not something new to this election. So I'm not sure. Yes, it's a little bit more complicated having two different, male and female races, but to me, there's no other logical people to do it other than us.
I agree.
Well, there's no reason for us not to do it.
Agreed.
I mean,
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
Agreed.
Okay. Margaret, you want to give us an update on?
Yeah, we need to go downstairs now. I want to get the early voting stuff started.
Oh, you do want to
Okay,
get it
yes.
started?
Yes.
We're gonna.
She hadn't been ready before.
Oh, you want to make? Oh, Mike. Wait, Mike.
We're gonna
wants to-
recess.
Well, not yet, Margie. Mike, I'm
Real
sorry.
quick, I was wondering if Ms. Phillips's remarks regarding the staff could be put to print and sent to Mr. Firestone.
Oh,
Yeah, I have no problem with that. That sounds.
Thank you.
We're back from a recess, and Naheed just came. She was at Leisure World, and she reports that the lines are manageable and everything is going well. And so we had some issues this morning, but is there anything else that we should know about, Margaret?
we had one precinct. One precinct opened late, 9:27. It opened 4 or 5 minutes late.
Thank you.
Then,
Thanks, Lisa.
which one?
Rachel Carson.
Rachel Carson.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
out there.
There was something with the poll books. I'm drawing a blank. It feels like that was days ago. There was that one. There was the one you guys went down and fixed.
Tilden, yes.
410.
410. And there was just one more precinct that had some sort of issue.
Well, 0406 locked the ballots
Lost
Oh,
their
yeah.
ballots.
box,
that was
but
it.
fortunately they were able to go ahead and get to the ballots before the polls opened, and therefore they opened on time.
The one thing I've been asked by the chief judges is, are they going to have access to provisionals if they need them? I said yes.
They have all the ballots that they need. And they were told that they pulled the top 50 of each type of ballot, so Democrat, Republican, unaffiliated. If they go through that, then they go back to the ballot, because there is no difference between a regular ballot and a provisional ballot. It's all exactly the same.
Okay.
We do not print, thank you, Lord, we do not print separate provisional ballots.
Any concerns or issues with electioneering or boundaries? I haven't heard any. Has anybody?
I have not.
I've seen a few areas. I mean, Cedar Lane Unitarian, you practically had to break people apart to go through the path to the front door. And I said, "Whoa, let's take a look here. Where are the boundary signs? I couldn't even see them." And the one was fine, but the other one had been mushed back in the side. And so, I made an executive decision for a fair-looking amount of space. And I said, you just have to give people breathing room to walk through here. You're going to lose more votes than you gain if you're, on top of everybody.
There's an issue at Asbury.
They're supposed to be inside.
Yeah, they are, but the problem in Asbury is that if you push them too far back from the polling room, the people in Asbury can go ahead and basically bypass all the electioneering because they go down different halls. So it's been moved up so that at least the people that are handing out literature can at least hand it to them if they want to.
Dave?
I had almost an opposite issue at Sligo Middle School where the maps had two different no electioneering zones. One is at the entrance that is near the cafeteria, which is where they're voting. One is at the front entrance where there really is no parking. But what happens is that by having the no electioneering signs at the front entrance, which actually was locked at the time that when they opened this morning, it was propped open when I got there. It essentially confuses people as to where they're supposed to go because no one actually goes through that door. They go through the other side. So I didn't have time to make an executive decision about that one because that was when you needed someone at Tilden. But I asked the chief judge what she thought, and she thought it was actually better off not to have the signs and not to have people coming in that door, because all of the parking lot is around the side of the building.
Sligo Creek, did you call me about that last night?
No.
Okay, somebody must have. But can I talk to the chief judge? And we are going to go back there. The problem with that location is the main door entrance, if this is the correct one I'm remembering, the main door is the handicap entrance, which does make individuals that would say in a wheelchair or something go a longer distance. But there is another entrance in the back of the building, which is right by the poll room, but there's not any handicap parking, nor is there...
There is handicap
okay.
parking.
So that's how come I was listening to the chief judge talk to me last night, and I said that she should go with the facility map that she had, and to make sure that whichever door is the ADA door, that she should put the big sign on.
Right.
And then I asked her to do two things. Number one, mark up the facility map and send it back in her chief judge binder, and that's what you should tell anyone.
Okay.
If somebody objects to the way that the layout is, then tell them to mark up the facility map, include it in the chief judge binder, and we'll re-look at it between now and October, so that we can, do whatever tweaks we need to any of these specific sites. We're just trying to ensure that there's at least one good ADA entrance.
Right.
And quite honestly, Jim talks about the active shooter situation, and the schools are changing their doors all the time to address that, and so that's also impacting our ADA doors.
Yeah, and the other thing is, though, for just that issue, that having an additional doorway that's not next to the parking where everyone else is actually makes it easier for someone to come in and come out in an appropriate way. I think the thought was if you keep that now. Obviously, you have to have an ADA door. That's a requirement.
Just mark it up, or have the chief judges mark it up for us.
Okay.
So that because we do go through all those books right after the election, after we do some of the audit and stuff.
If we're still on the issue of handicap, I just think we need to develop different and better signage. Not dealing with the ADA parking, but somehow being able to direct people when an ADA entrance is completely around. You got some of these schools, you have to go in a driveway and around to the back of the building. And the sign, for example, where I was in Bethesda, at Lynbrook School, was just awful, because the way they're parked in front of the whole school property there, you have to go to the end of the line, and there's a driveway, and there's a very small sign It doesn't stand very high, and it's got a lot of wording on it because it's both in English and Spanish. And for the life of it, you can't even tell it means that it's a handicap entrance there. We need large kinds of signage
You want signs that are
that are visible as people are driving around the facility to direct the handicap. And it should have the handicap insignia, boldly on it that makes it stand out and that kind of thing.
okay.
I mean, I'll be happy to work with a group to, try to design something or
I would
whatever.
imagine the ADA would have people that would help with that. Maybe even provide some. I should think that, no?
I thought some of our
But you
polling
had
places
the
have
big
some very
signs
large
that
signs.
the
Some of them
handicap
do,
signs.
some
Big
of them
one.
don't.
I saw
Just
that.
depends. We've been slowly but surely replacing signs too.
Well, you know what we had to do at St. Catherine's, to get additional
Yeah.
signage to get into the back there.
Yeah.
But we were able to take care of that, and now there are just a lot more of them that need something.
Right. And
So
you
Nick-
do have an age demographic too.
The lines that I was telling Maureen, you told me the lines at Leisure World are okay now?
The problem was
Manageable?
that they did not enough helper to help the handicap.
Want me?
When they
Mhm.
cleared that, they were sitting there and some complaining, I'm sitting there for a long time. They didn't have people to help the handicap. And one of those ballot marker device, the audio wasn't good. And we had a gentleman who couldn't hear and he was blind, but he didn't want anybody to help him.
Yeah.
So then he couldn't hear it. So
Did they put him on the second unit? There's 2 units.
no, I guess the lady from here was there. We tried to do something, and then we finally, said,
You got
okay,
the
he can
audio
hear it. Yeah.
functioning.
But they do need help. And these people, when you help them, they hold on to their dear life. They stay with you until you go out of the door. So that was the problem with Leisure Work. And otherwise, it was okay.
The lines
Everything
are
was
okay now?
Yeah, everything was okay. And I visited other places. It wasn't any problem. It was,
Yeah, I heard that at Leisure World, you were at 1350, the main clubhouse.
Yeah,
Yeah, that they.
the ballroom. I was in
Yeah,
the ballroom.
they had 9 people one right after the other that needed assistance.
Yeah, that was the
Exactly.
problem. And,
Yeah.
and then few times they gave them wrong ballot. They gave
Yes,
the
I heard
Democratic
about that
ballot
too.
to Republican lady. She was complaining, and then
Did she
Republic-
go back and get the correct ballot?
I was with her. Yes,
Ah,
we were,
okay.
but she was complaining. But then was another person, Democrat, but they were giving Republican ballot.
Oh my
How did
word.
that
Yeah.
happen?
That's pretty
Because they're not
basic.
paying attention.
Good thing they weren't
They're
there on
supposed
early
to-
voting.
The check-in judge is supposed to,
Yeah.
once the voter authority card is printed and the person signs it, they're supposed to circle with yellow highlighter the ballot style and the
Right.
ballot number.
You're right.
That's
said-
why we bought thousands of yellow highlighters.
The ballot shows, the poll book shows right party, but when they took it to that table, and they didn't have anybody to help with this poll ballot. So they were all jammed in that little corner.
Oh, wow.
They were giving ballot, they were doing that. It was a little bit, and the judge, one of the judges said the other judge is not good. I didn't get involved in that business.
Good.
Because I wasn't there to get involved in that business.
Did a lot of spoiled ballots there?
Hmm?
Did a lot of spoiled ballots?
They didn't have any particular person you can go and do this. Right? So all, they were short in help.
Yeah, Jim and Kevin and I witnessed a voter who was leaving Tilden when we were leaving, who sounds like he spoiled some ballots and didn't have the time or the patience to stick around to fix it. And I don't know whether there's anything that we can do to make the process of dealing
They
with
can't
spoiled
do
ballots
anything about it.
easier.
If, they don't want to wait, they don't want to wait. What can you do?
The spoiled ballot process, and I think there should be a sign on the black card. All you have to do, again, we bought thousands of black magic markers, and all they have to do is, when it says spoiled, they just go through with black magic marker straight down through every oval, flip it over, do every oval. It's like 4 strokes.
Yeah, it doesn't
And
take
then,
long.
and then they give it to the ballot table judge, who puts it in the spoiled ballot envelope, and issue the individual a new ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not that difficult to do, and I feel bad that the gentleman didn't have enough time to do that.
And I checked with the provisional, not that many polling places issued provisional. I just saw one of the polling places for change of address, it was wrong. Otherwise, not that many provisional, the place I check.
Yeah.
Maybe 2, 3,
One of the things that, of the first 8,000 MVA issues that were the party changes, that the state was able to give us some information on. One of the things and we had maybe 2 hours yesterday to kind of look through this data, but we'll continue to look through it, is that the information, individuals would go to the MVA and make these change, but they also would go to the State Board of Elections website. So there was duplication. So while it was not caught through the MVA process, because the individual came through the State Board online process, it was captured. And then there was the ERIC, how we mail to all those ERIC people. So we send the green confirmation card, and we would get a response back, so that would allow us to update. So the impact, and there's no excuse, I'm not going to excuse MVA, but it's not at the first 8,000 party change problems was not at the magnitude that we thought it would be.
Oh.
But we haven't seen the entire list, and we still are waiting for the state board to process that information so that we can utilize it as we do the provisional research.
So you're saying you have 8,000 of them?
With the first 8,000, the first
8,000.
8,000 party address change and party changes, we were able to see, what kind of who was in this pool of people, and we did some initial comparisons. I mean, we're talking just less than 1,000, to just see, just to get a taste of what kind of problems we were
I
looking
think
at.
what Mary Ann's saying is, was it 8,000 for Montgomery County, or was it 8,000?
Oh, no, this
that
was
was
this was for the whole state.
For
And that was
all
today.
states.
Folks.
Yeah, and
How does all of this affect the early voters? This MVA thing and
The
whatever.
the only way it impacts the early voters is that those individuals that voted provisionally because they were
Which I don't think we had a high.
or
It
not
wasn't that
registered,
many either.
what would have got to vote through same-day voter registration. The impacts is pretty.
But you would think the
You
people
have
that,
same-day voter registration during early voting.
you would think the people that took the time to change their address or party are voters. They're
I was in Bethesda.
likely to vote, I would think.
I was in Bethesda. I was asking about that, and they had very few provisionals, and they were saying, the judges were saying, these are pretty stable communities. People don't move in or out too much, so there weren't many address changes. But speaking of ovals, one of the things one of the judges passed on is to make boldface the oval on the ballots, so people can see it better.
Yeah, they are small.
Yeah, but make them boldface so it's easier to see the oval.
You can make that recommendation to the state board and the ES&S.
Okay.
Well, that's
That's
we
been an issue
raised
before.
the issue
raised it
that they're
before.
They
too
are
small,
small.
but I don't
They
know
are.
that we
I
mentioned
agree.
bolding it. That's
Actually, years ago, there were check marks. It would say
yeah.
check mark, and we got them to change it at least to say, put it in an oval, because you had to duplicate so many ballots because people would do these large check marks outside.
I still like I remember the old, you turn,
The switches.
the switches. And in New York, you could vote the whole party. You could vote
Of course,
just
you
one
flip that
switch.
one flip.
Yeah.
Same as South
And then
Carolina.
you open the curtain,
And
Yeah.
that
And then you close
recorded
it.
it.
Open the curtain and it all counts.
and then the police opened it, and they took the count, and they took it to the Board of Elections.
Oh,
Police.
Sluggers are
not in
no more.
Pittsburgh. My father
Sluggers are
opened
no
them.
more. They're
And
gone.
the rumor is, since we're being recorded, that in Baltimore, the legend is that when you, they could put rubber bands, when they opened up those old machines, you cranked them up, and they came up, and you could put a rubber band around the president, where you voted for president, and whoever voted for president automatically
slate.
voted for all the other people in that party.
Oh, it automatically did.
Well,
I'd
we're still on the record.
Oh, good. I wanted to raise the issue of the aquatic center, which I called Margaret about last night, because I think it's of a severity.
Precinct number?
Pardon me?
The precinct
I think
number.
it's 4-4.
What's your precinct number? You know?
Where is it?
Shriver Kennedy Aquatic.
Ask me something.
Oh, okay.
It moved from Lux Manor.
Right.
It was one of the ones that had to be moved because of the school situation. And the aquatic center is beyond anything I've ever seen in terms of not being appropriate for a polling site. It is such a small room. It's smaller than half of this room.
Really?
I mean, it's that. I can't imagine the people that are having to work in there. I mean, last night it just took my breath away when I walked in, and I got there, I had been to 3 others before, so it was pretty well set up. And I was like, what are you going to do? They couldn't even use all of the voting booths. They could only set up 6 of them.
Is it a small precinct? Voting precinct?
Oh, it's not that small, because you've got a lot of big apartment buildings there. And, most of those people like to vote on election day. But and there's also no facility for the people that are working there to have a lunchroom spot. There's no, they don't have any kind of little refrigeration or, oven for their food. It's just terrible. I don't know how it got approved as a site.
Just the primary is going to be there. Is it going back?
It's supposed to be there, of course, for both elections, but I think we are desperately in need to find another spot for the general.
Is that near your home?
Yes, it's her home precinct.
Yes, it's my home.
Yeah. I stopped by there and was equally appalled, if not more so. I mean, Marianne and I could compete for how appalled we were. It was not only really small, it was the longest line of anything I saw today. Because it was so small, they have a small number of staff. When they have anyone on the ballot marking device, they need to have 2 judges to assist someone with the ballot marking device. And in those apartments, there's probably a few people who can use the ballot marking devices. When you take 2 judges in a very small space and you move them over to there, they can't do other things. Meanwhile, the chief judge was there trying to come up with the 11 a.m. count. And because they had so few people, they were having a lot of trouble. And because of that, it slowed down people from checking in. So if there's anything that can be done to get more people out there, to the extent that we can squeeze them into this small room, but even so, if there would be someone there to help people with the ballot marking device so that they don't have to be, moved from doing something else to doing that. And then the other thing is that we really should look at whether there's anything else possible for the fall, because obviously we're going to have many more people voting in the fall than we have now, and that location is just not going to cut it.
Have we had that location for a long time?
No, we've never had it
just
before.
a new one because of the
because of the school. But I believe that school situation is one that's not going to be ready for the fall. I think they're completely redoing that school.
I don't know.
But perhaps the 2 that are in Tilden now, if one of them, if the extra one that's in Tilden, maybe if it can go back, then this could be moved to Tilden, because that's not that far away.
You're saying if one of them, because the one that's Tilden Center, that one's not going to be ready in the fall. And the other one,
it's not.
No, because in fact it's not demolished yet.
The other one is the regular.
And the other one is the regular one at Tilden. So I'm not sure that's your solution.
Is Walter Johnson too far to move that to?
Well, what about B'nai Israel?
What's next?
We're not using B'nai Israel for 430.
How small the
It's
Yeah, that's what I've
you know,
heard.
it's close. It's close enough. I mean, it's basically
Call the chief
not
judge.
that far from there. I want to look at a map.
Yeah, we can look at a
But
map.
we can look at a map.
But I think
you know.
we should revisit it. So
You know.
so please put it on the list to revisit.
Sure.
But you were out of the room, Margaret, when David suggested we actually need another person.
We actually
as it is.
we actually need another person or two, because what happens is that every time someone votes at the BMD, they need to have two different parties helping the person voting there, that then takes them away from the other parts of the room, that then slows down and it causes a line.
Okay.
So if there's a way, I don't know if you have any extra people that you can deploy.
Today? No.
Okay.
We've maxed out.
All right, because the roamer was kind of doing check-in for a little bit. Well, when I was leaving, that's what was happening, because they really were kind of hard up for.
The 81,000 notifications had a negative impact on election judge appearances.
Really?
Interesting.
Really?
You're saying
Not
that
a lot.
you said that there are people who didn't show up today more so than usual.
That's what Leslie suggested.
They were afraid.
I don't know what they were. They just decided that they weren't going to come.
Of course, it also could just be good weather.
It was a nice day.
Yeah.
So I don't know for sure.
One of the issues I
But we did not have a lot of standby judges for this election. Because
Yeah.
people are just, I don't even have enough
Yeah.
standby workers
Yeah.
for tonight.
Well, I know in my office, this is perhaps the most. I have the most people on vacation this week of any week in the summer. So I understand that as an issue. There were a couple of places that I went to last night where we only have one chief judge instead of instead of having two. I know there's a number of those. You know.
Well, I see Margaret's getting pulled out, and
Well, she was following up on an email I received from a previous board member who was at Burnt Mills Elementary School.
At what elementary?
Burnt Mills Elementary
And
School. And they had a diversion.
They've got it diverted.
They've got it
Oh my
diverted.
gosh!
Damn.
Okay.
What is?
What is
But
that?
I'm going to go there now. Bears me.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there right now.
They catch the
A
snake.
diversion.
Oh, they have a snake.
Yeah, you want to go play with me?
My God.
All you need is a
We have
map.
an issue with progressive electioneering who
Maybe
are
that's it.
chasing people down
That's a
Where?
kindly
Davis Library.
snake.
at Davis Library. We need to have somebody go out there and...
I'll go there. I'm
I
going
can go there
to
afterwards. It's on my list.
I'm gonna go
I didn't
Leisure
make it
World.
in
Yeah,
before.
somebody
I
goes,
didn't
I
go
think
there.
you know.
No.
What's wrong with Davis?
Now?
Davis Library.
Kevin,
Yeah, I know.
Is it
Alan
now?
said he can go down because it's one of his. Do you want him to go now?
It's one of yours.
yeah, I think we're gonna. I think
Because I am
if anybody, I think
matter
we should
to
kind of
me.
wrap this up.
Okay,
Get out
before
in the
you
field.
go anywhere, I need to know who's coming back here tonight.
I am.
What time
I
is
am.
it?
Okay.
It depends. Are we required to be here?
Okay, what time is
I
it?
can come back.
Well, it's not a question of whether you can or not. You don't need to be back. But because there is going to be a bigger security presence, you cannot get on the property unless I know
You're
about
right.
it. So,
You're right.
Put me on the list.
okay, so take one of these.
Where should we park?
You need to come up the hill by Fitzgerald. You need to give that to
Thank
the
you.
security officer, and they will find a parking space for you. However, you need to be here as close to 8 o'clock as possible, because once the trucks start coming up, once the people start coming back, because we're a regional drop-off site, it's going to be very difficult to get into the
It's going to be
lot.
difficult to get out too, right?
Well, after about 10:30,
No.
you should be able to get out. And if I know you guys, you'll be here until 10:30. But it's just a question, you've got to have that, or the security officers are not going to let you, they don't care who you are, they're not going to let you on property
So okay,
without
so we
that.
come up the hill like we're.
Come up the hill, and then there's going to be a security officer at the bottom of the hill, and a security officer at the top of the hill.
Well, I come straight across. Well, I come through the.
No, you can't do that
They won't let
tonight.
you. It's blocked. It's going to be a one-way.
You need to come up
Up
the hill at
355?
Fitzgerald by Salvation Army.
So the only way to come in is through on 355.
Yeah.
You should walk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could.
Tonight, you've got to come up the hill.
355. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you come up the back from Old Game Preserve, you're waiting in line with the election judges.
Okay. No. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll come up
Thank you,
355.
Margaret.
By
Thank you.
the Salvation Army,
We have
you
food.
need that for security to let you through.
Got it.
Okay.
I sent one over to you. Oh, you gave it to Jackie. She's not coming back
Thank you.
here.
I'm going to
Huh?
I'm
No.
going
She's
to
not
go
coming
to
back here.
Churchill because last night it was sign problem. I'm going to see if they correct
Okay, you're
it.
going to Churchill, you're going to
I'm
Davis
going to go
Library.
that area.
I'm going back to a couple of Watkins Mills, and then I'm going to go to.
And
Leisure
you'll
World.
be in
Okay.
here tonight, not in Margaret's office. just so you know.
I may start.
So
it.
Well,
Two quick things.
don't they have the AP reporters?
Well,
here?
they're going to be, I'm going to have to schlep them into the kitchen.
Huh?
The press booth.
You're going to put the press in the
Press in the
kitchen?
kitchen?
You have a bigger TV, otherwise you have.
Does that work? I mean, is that show?
Oh, I know, but we like to bother you.
You're not
Well, we'll have a computer. We'll have a computer for
I
the
thought
return.
that
I
one.
have two quick things here. I think it was 728 Bradley Hills. They found that they didn't have fresh paper.
Who do you need?
Lisa?
in the
Lisa?
scanner.
Lisa? The door?
Somebody wants you.
Door. I'm going there.
I think it was 728. I think it was. They didn't have fresh paper in
I'm
the
going to go
scanner.
check all the Potomac.
It had a pink on it. They pulled the paper out.
Did they call the help desk to have more paper sent?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they didn't have fresh paper to begin with there. It was the end of a roll
You're gonna be stuck in line.
in there. Second thing is, I found the name of the judge that I saw at Mid-County during early voting who brought me to the attention of the issue about the Alex, the judge. Her name is Diane Cherry, if you want to talk to her. Diane Cherry, the judge. The chief judge was Tacoma Precinct. I saw her. She asked me about I got any emails. I got emails. But her name is Diane Cherry, if you want to follow
Cherry like
Cherry is the fruit.
And what is this? Who is she?
She's a witness.
She
from
was
what
one who
happened
was
at
also became aware of the problem
At Mid-County.
with Alex, this Alex judge
Alex.
allegedly making stereotypical racial remarks.
Right.
Okay,
That's that is an operational issue. It involves employee. It implicates the
Yeah, no, he just gave the
collective
name.
bargaining agreement.
Just give the name of the person.
He just
who might
gave the
be
name,
witness.
that's all.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so let's,
Davis.
do we have a motion to adjourn?
Wait a minute, Margaret, here's my notes from early voting. Have you all already covered all of that?
Yeah, here.
This is, and here is this form that the state did that has half a dozen mistakes on it.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.